These are all things NBA. In 2022, Joe Johnson became the last active NBA player that played against Michael Jordan. He was in the NBA with Jordan for 2 seasons while Jordan was making his last run with the Washington Wizards. The advanced stat box plus minus is the measure of how good your team is per 100 possessions with you on the floor. Nikola Jokic is the NBA's all-time leader in box plus minus. His team is over 10 points better when he's on the floor per 100 possessions. The top 10 leaders in box plus minus in order are Nikola Jokic, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Magic Johnson, David Robinson, Larry Bird, Giannis, John Stockton, and Joel Embiid. Victor Wembanyama may become one of the greatest shot blockers of all time. In his 3 seasons, he's averaged 3.6, 3.8, and 2.6 blocks a year, respectively. But let's compare that to another giant from a bygone era. When you talk about Mark Eaton of the Utah Jazz, you're talking about a legitimate big man, 7'4" without shoes on. Eaton was 290 pounds and an intimidating presence in the middle. His greatest seasons with blocks were 4.3, 4.6, and 5.6 in 1985, still a record. I still think Wilt's the greatest shot blocker. Can players' games translate to different eras? Well, Robert Parrish could. The 7'1" center's rookie year was 1976 with the Golden State Warriors. This is the year the ABA folded, and that season the NBA's leading scorer was Pete Maravich with just over 30 points a game. Parrish's final season of 96-97, the NBA's leading scorer was Michael Jordan, Parrish's teammate. Kevin McHale's best season was his All-NBA first-team campaign of 1986-87. He averaged 26 points, 9.9 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks. He was the first player in NBA history to shoot over 60% from the field and 80% from the line. He played the entire playoff run that year with a broken foot, and he was never quite the same. 1998 was one of the greatest NBA drafts ever, but with the 6th pick, the Dallas Mavericks selected Robert Traylor out of Michigan. They would then turn around and trade the draft rights to Robert Traylor to the Milwaukee Bucks for the draft rights to Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk was widely considered the best player in Europe at the time. Footage had already leaked of a 19-year-old Dirk taking a bunch of American pro players to school. But let's pretend that Dirk stays on Milwaukee. He joins a roster that includes Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, Terrell Brandon, Tim Thomas, Glenn Robinson, and Del Curry, father of Steph. Would this team have ushered in the three-point era a lot sooner than the Golden State Warriors did? And it's ironic to think that Del Curry was on this team. Sam Bowie, the center from Kentucky, was taken over Michael Jordan in 1984, considered maybe the greatest draft ever. The Blazers already had Clyde Drexler, and they thought it was too redundant to have Michael on the team. Plus, some of the unwritten rules of team building back then was you had to have a big guy. You draft the big guy over everybody. But if that draft in a fantasy world was transplanted to this season, then most definitely Michael Jordan is going second. Teams would have salivated to put Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan together. Hakeem would have probably still gone first, but all things considered, what would it have looked like if Drexler and Jordan were together? The Blazers have certainly had their share of draft day blunders, so let's go back over a decade. In 1972, the Blazers drafted LaRue Martin out of Loyola, Chicago. The 6'11" center is considered maybe the greatest draft bust in history. He averaged 5 points and 4 rebounds in 4 seasons. Trust the process. Well, the process only works if you make the right picks. What if the Sixers stayed put and drafted Jason Tatum number 3 overall in the 2017 draft? Or they traded up and drafted Tatum anyway. They, of course, would end up with Markelle Fultz, but had they drafted Jason Tatum, the roster would have been Tatum, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons when he still liked basketball, JJ Redick, Jahlil Okafor, Dario Saric, and TJ McConnell. I didn't think the process was a terrible idea, but just this one move would have made everyone trust the process just a little bit more. We briefly talked about the 1998 draft, and Michael Olowokandi went first. He should not have. If we are drafting it again knowing what we know, it probably goes Dirk, Paul, Vince, Anton. In a fantasy world, if we're drafting it blindly in 2026, it goes Dirk, Vince, Anton, Paul, and Olowokandi probably goes in the late first or second round. But back then, as we know, you gotta have the big guy. Then we have the curious case of Darko Milicic in the 2003 NBA draft, also one of the greatest drafts of all time. LeBron goes first to the Cavaliers, of course, but the loaded Pistons decide to take Darko instead of Carmelo Anthony, the Syracuse superstar. Don't even think about Wade or Bosch going here at 2, it was Melo. Melo had taken the college game by storm. He was a charismatic leader who led his team to a national title as a freshman. He had size, he had skills, he had it all. I asked myself how? How did Joe Dumars, the Pistons great and general manager at the time, watch this and not want to take Carmelo second? I think Melo would have been even better if he joined that veteran team. In 2000, the Orlando Magic were loaded with cap space. They ended up acquiring Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill on massive free agent deals. Tim Duncan, by all accounts, had all but signed on the bottom line until Doc Rivers told him his family couldn't travel on the team plane. McGrady completely balled out, but Grant Hill was injured for the majority of his time there and was never the same. The three of them would have owned the Eastern Conference. The East had nothing on the West at the time. In 1969, the Milwaukee Bucks won a coin flip for the right to draft Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out of UCLA. The Phoenix Suns lost the coin flip, but what if they won? What would their roster have looked like? Kareem would have been teamed up with a just hitting his prime Gail Goodrich, Connie the Hawk Hawkins, solid center Neil Walk, Dick Van Arsdale, a star shooting guard, and Paul Silas, a future champion with the Boston Celtics and rebounding extraordinaire. I think there's a good chance Kareem wins a chip with that team. And now let's talk about Wilt. In the 1967 East Finals against the Celtics, Wilt goes full Thanos. For the series, of course, he averages 21 points, 32 rebounds, 10 assists, and 9.2 blocks. But it's his Game 1 quadruple-double I want to talk about. 24 points, 32 rebounds, 13 assists, and 12 blocks against Bill Russell. The record for points scored in an individual finals game was Elgin Baylor in 1962, when he scored 61 points. Tied for second is Michael Jordan and Rick Barry. Michael Jordan had 55 in the 93 finals. Barry had 55 in the 1967 finals, respectively. Baylor is still also the all-time leader in rebounds per game by a small forward with 13.5. In 1961, the 6'5" small forward Baylor averaged 19.8 rebounds a game. The first player to score 60 points in a game was Joe Folks in 1949. Jumpin' Joe had 63 points. The most rebounds in an NBA Finals game was done by the same player twice. Bill Russell had a 40-rebound game in the 1960 Finals and a 40-rebound game in the 1962 Finals. Wilt Chamberlain still owns the single-season record for rebounds in a game, which is 55, against Bill Russell. When you're talking about per-game averages, Russell is still the second greatest rebounder of all time. He averaged 22.5 rebounds a game for his career. Magic Johnson holds the record for assists in an NBA Finals game, with 21 in 1984 against the Celtics. The player with the most steals in an NBA Finals game is Robert Horry in 1995 with 7. The record for blocks in a Finals game is Dwight Howard in 2009 with 9 blocks. Ewing, Shaq, and Duncan were all credited with 8 block Finals games. Steph Curry has the record for three-pointers made in a Finals game with 9 in 2018. He broke Ray Allen's previous record of 8. Nat Hickey is the oldest player to ever appear in an NBA game at 45 in 1949. In 2005, Andrew Bynum became the youngest player to ever appear in an NBA game. He was 18 years and 6 days old. Thank you all for watching.